and welcome to my video on Destruction Warlock. This video is meant to help you better understand your spells as the Destruction Warlock and also to help you maximize your rotation. A lot of the things you see in my UI I no longer use. Feel free to ask questions about them, but most of them, again, I do not use. Let's get started with a quick overview of our primary spells. Our first spell is Immolate, which deals instant damage and then some damage over time. Then Chaos Bolt, which is our hardest hitting spell, followed by Conflagrate, which deals instant damage and a small amount of damage over time, and Incinerate, which is our primary filler. That is to say, we cast this the most, and it's going to be the largest portion of our overall damage. We're also going to cast a spell called Curse of the Elements on our targets. This is usually for longer fights, like bosses. It buffs all the damage that we do with all of our spells. Advanced users of this spell will want to know that it does not stack with another Warlock's Curse of the Elements, and it also does not stack with the Balanced Druid's talent Earth and Moon, which provides the same bonus. If you will not be needing to cast Curse of the Elements, Curse of Doom is your next choice. As long as whatever you're fighting will last longer than a minute, it will deal the most damage for your curses. Curse of Agony is a spell that I only use when I'm going to be changing my primary target and I want to continue to do damage on my old target. In a PvE environment, you're always going to want to have Fel Armor up. This increases your spell power by a flat amount and then increases your spell power furthermore by a percentage of your total spirit, which is why spirit is a good stat for Warlocks. Fel Armor also heals you over time, which is nice because you'll be using this next spell, Life Tap, which converts your health into mana based on how much spirit you have. In addition, with the glyph of Life Tap, you will convert 20% of your total spirit into spell power whenever you use your Life Tap ability. At the time of making this video, for my Warlock, that was nearly 150 spell power, which is no small number even by today's standards. It is for this reason that you will want to keep track of your Life Tap buff and always keep it up when you have the glyph. The last spell I'm going to talk about is Corruption. I get asked about this spell a lot. At lower levels, Corruption is a core ability of all Warlocks, but in endgame it should only be used when you're forced to move and cannot cast any other spells. If Conflagrate is off cooldown, that will be your first choice when moving, but otherwise Corruption is the way to go. Let's talk briefly about our main pet, the Imp. I like to have the Imp set on defensive, which means that every time I start an attack, he will also attack. As you can see, when I chose to use my wand ability, he also chose to start firebolting the enemy. When I want him to stop, I'll click the follow ability. Some people also prefer to have their pet set to passive. This means that they will not attack unless instructed to. When you have this set, you can control whether he attacks by pressing Shift-T to make him attack. Next, let's talk about our weapon enhancements. We have two primary weapon enhancements. These are things we can put on our weapon. The first one is Grand Spellstone, which increases your periodic damage from your dots and increases your haste rating. The other one is Grand Firestone, which increases your direct damage and increases your critical strike. There's some argument as to which one works better. A lot of people will tell you that the Firestone is the way to go, since your primary filler is Incinerate, which is a direct damage spell. But in gear where you have a lot of haste, the Spellstone haste benefit can be good, causing you to cast Incinerate faster, so it doesn't do as much damage, but since you cast more of them, the idea is that you're doing more damage overall. As for which one you should use based on your gear, etc., etc., that's up to you. I would take it to a target dummy like you see in this video and test out which one yields more damage. I've always found that they do about the same, so I end up using the Grand Firestone because that's what most people support. Now let's get to the most important part, the part that no matter what your gear is like, if you're not doing this right, you won't be doing the top damage, your rotation. The rotation is actually going to be a spell priority, but I'll show you one of the best ways to open as Destruction to get your damage going up quickly. For this demonstration, we're going to assume that you need to be casting Curse of Elements because no one else is providing that buff for you. I'm going to go ahead and set recount to the current fight, open with Curse of Elements, Life Tap, and then I hit Immolate first, into a Chaos Bolt, into a Conflagrate, and then start using Incinerates. You want to get as many Incinerates off as you can before Conflagrate comes off cooldown. You'll see it's coming off right now. Hit it again. Try to squeeze in a Chaos Bolt, Immolate, more Incinerates. You'll cast Incinerate over and over again until another spell comes off cooldown, or until Immolate is about to fall off. You will also want to be keeping track of your life tap buff so as not to lose the spell power bonus from that. One of the questions that a lot of Warlocks have when starting out is, should I clip my dots? Which means, should I recast something like Immolate or Corruption before it falls off? You don't want to clip your dots if you can avoid it, but sometimes it's necessary because you won't have another chance to cast it and you want to keep the damage going. In general, it's okay for Immolate to fall off as long as it's the very next spell you're going to cast after the one you're currently casting. For instance, if it's about to fall off, I can squeeze in one more Incinerate, it falls off during the Incinerate, and I cast Immolate again as soon as I can. From time to time in my scrolling combat text, you'll see the Empowered Imp buff come up and go down. What that basically means is that I'm talented for the Empowered Imp ability. Whenever my Imp critically hits with a spell, my next direct damage spell will also critically hit. This is a very large bonus to your overall damage. And this is the primary reason that we use Imp over all other available pets. Let's do a quick review of the rotation. We'll start with the life tap. This will increase your spell power and all the damage you do. We get up Curse of Elements. Again, this increases all the damage you do with all your spells. Then we're going to get up Immolate, making sure that our Imp is attacking. Immolate's going to buff your Incinerate damage. Chaos Bolt. Watch the cooldown. You want to cast it whenever you can. Conflagrate. Watch the cooldown. You want to cast it whenever you can. And then Incinerate, which is your filler spell. This means that whenever you have anything on cooldown or you're waiting for something, you're going to be casting Incinerate. Let's move on to glyphs. At the upper ends of gear, when you've got access to all the stats and things that you want, there's a little bit more flexibility in what glyphs you can use. But for starters, and up until about somewhere in the ends of the Ice Crown raid gear, you're going to want to make sure that you've got these three glyphs. The first one is Incinerate, which increases the damage done by your Incinerate spell another 5%. Glyph of Conflagrate. This spell is important because you need Immolate up to cast Conflagrate, and normally when you use Conflagrate it destroys your Immolate spell. With this glyph that no longer happens and allows you to get more Conflagrates in per Immolate. The third glyph is the Glyph of Life Tap, which I've already mentioned. This increases your spell power by 20% of your spirit for 40 seconds. This also works with Dark Pact, which is an affliction talent. In the interest of saving time, I'm going to skip covering talent trees in this video. One of the main reasons is they change a lot. I don't foresee them changing too much before Cataclysm drops, but I'd rather not spend the time covering every single individual talent if I don't need to. What I'll do for you instead is give you links within this video to my own character, who's often spec'd for Destruction PvE, and to the Elitist Jerks forums for Destruction Warlock, which usually have very good suggestions about talents and explanations as to why they're useful. I highly recommend getting to know your talents so that way you can make informed choices as you continue to play and perhaps raid. There are definitely talents that you'll want to pick up for specific fights that your group or guild may be struggling with and that you can help with if you understand your talent trees thoroughly. Thanks for watching my video on Destruction Warlock, and subscribe to me to find other videos on World of Warcraft play. And make sure to visit my suggestions video to leave a comment on videos you would like to see me cover. Thanks.